Hey everyone, it's Elizabeth Marosco, and I am with a very special guest today who is going to share some insight with us on elderly care, including being able to stay focused on safety and protection. And this is something that really everyone should take a minute to listen to this interview. And the reason why is over, I think it's 2.5 million people in 2014 were victims of identity fraud. Over 13% of people aged 65 and older have also been impacted by this. This is important for you as family members, or even you yourself should be aware of. So, with that being said, I'm super excited to have Amir here to share the nitty gritty of things that are detrimental to keep you and your family safe. So, Amir, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invite to be able to broadcast this special message to the general public and the followers of Kudos magazine and everybody else that is in your network.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's it's um one of these topics that we really don't like to talk about. It's taboo, and we really hope that these sort of things don't happen. But unfortunately, with the world, there are some people that don't have the best interest of our most vulnerable population. And so I'm hoping that today you could talk to us about that a little bit. How there's some abuse that you might be able to
yep.
see, and other
Mhm.
abuse may be a situation where it's not noticeable physically.
Right, right. So I'll kind of get started about elder abuse. I mean, what is it? I mean, I think that the term and the what is called really defines itself, right? It's abusing elderly people, but it doesn't just go as far as elderly people. It goes even with people with special needs, disabled individuals. When we talk about elder abuse, it's not just, you have to be 65 and older or 70 and older, or whatever it may be, right? It could be someone who's in their 30s who is disabled. It could be somebody in their 40s, whatever it may be. No, so I think elder abuse really pertains to people who are adults, and or vulnerable adults, and that goes probably from anywhere after 18 as the age of majority. So what we're going to talk about today is more of what is it, okay? And again, it's something that's really just disheartening. I mean, it's something that's just really tragic whenever you hear about it. And what it is, what are examples of it, what we can do to spot it, and then also what we can do to prevent it too. Because how you help this cause is not by just sending everybody out to go adopt an elderly or disabled person and check on them every single day, because there's way too many elderly and disabled people in the world for that. It's education, right? It's education and awareness and prevention. And that's what it comes down to. And so whenever I get a chance to talk about this topic, I always take the chance because, or I take the opportunity, I'm sorry, because I like spreading the good word, really. So with that, we're going to talk about the different types of abuse at first, and then we're going to get more into what's called financial abuse, okay? Because I think that's what's called the silent killer, if you will, and we'll get to why I call it that in just a minute, okay? So the different types of abuse, okay? The first one is just probably the first one everyone thinks of is physical abuse. When you say the word abuse, you always think about, smacking somebody around or punching, hitting, tugging, whatever it may, shoving, and that's pretty, everyone's pretty much aware of what kind of physical abuse there can be for elderly and disabled individuals. Sexual abuse is a very real thing that happens to the vulnerable adults and disabled people all the time, unfortunately. But that is something that is not as common, but it's still common enough for it to be a problem. Emotional abuse, another type of abuse, that could also be a silent killer in itself too, because there's really no scarring, right? There's no physical manifestation of emotional abuse. Okay, so and it's a matter of, hey, I think you're dumb, or why don't you just get up and walk yourself, you lazy bum. That's emotional abuse. That's making somebody feel nothing but great, right? I mean, it's I'm kind of the opposite of that. I think my personal my favorite trait about myself is I like to gas people up, right? I like to make sure that people feel good about themselves. So doing the opposite of that, I think, would be considered emotional abuse. Neglect, and that's just basically saying, look, we are supposed to be taking care of you, but we're not taking care of you as well as you should be, or we're instead of giving you 3 meals a day, we're giving you 1 meal a day. Neglect, okay? Abandonment, that's not even neglect. That's more of, hey, we're in charge of taking care of you, and we just don't take care of you. We just haven't seen you, and you're just kind of sitting in your house, and that's considered a type of elder abuse. This next one is really kind of an type of elder known by too many people, and it's actually a real thing too. It's called self-neglect. Okay, so what the self-neglect is saying, look, we have the opportunity to take care of yourself, right? But you're choosing not to take care of yourself, right? And nobody's really telling you to take care of yourself. You're just declining, and you're just kind of torturing yourself, if you will, okay? By not eating the right meals, or not showering, not bathing, not cleaning after yourself, whatever it may be, right? There's, and racking up, a lot of bacteria and germs around your house and things like that. I think the most common example of this is called hoarding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when people have hoarding in their house, right, they don't throw anything away, meaning we're talking about empty jugs of milk, or
Mm-hmm.
old pizza, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a type of self neglect. You're neglecting yourself. You're neglecting your own
And
hygiene, or
sometimes
your own.
that can happen too if a patient has dementia or Alzheimer's. That sometimes can be one of the side effects that family and friends will witness. Yeah.
Right, and that one's also a pretty silent killer as well, because
Mm-hmm.
on the face of things, hey, I'm taking care of myself. I just, made myself a nice meal yesterday, and I have leftovers today.
Mm-hmm.
Where in realization, they can just be saying that to make themselves, show that they don't need any help.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the
Mm-hmm.
the funny thing about this self neglect type of abuse is there's the person who's committing the abuse is the victim. Okay, so this one really doesn't go prosecuted very often, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I don't ever think it
Yeah, I
has
don't think
been,
they. Yeah,
because
yeah,
who are you going to prosecute? You're right.
yeah,
You're going to
yeah.
prosecute someone for not taking care of themselves. So, we
Mm-hmm.
don't really get into that, but it's just another type of abuse that we can
That
help
gets
people.
into almost another dynamic where a family member might have to reach out to somebody like yourself or to an agency to get help because it can be very difficult, especially when you're
Mhm.
dealing with a very independent person throughout their whole life. But then they get to the point where maybe they need a little bit more help, and
Mhm.
it takes a bridge sometimes to get there, and people need to help build that bridge. So with let's say some of the typical circumstances when it comes to protecting our loved ones, some of the things may be like you were talking about physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and then even financial abuse. You and I had a chance to talk just a little bit earlier, and we were talking about some of the scams and the ways that they kind of
Yeah.
leech themselves into a vulnerable person's life to
Right.
kind of whittle in there. And from my own personal experience, I can tell you my family went through this. Specifically, it was my husband. And I didn't realize the scope of the problem until many years later. And I can tell you it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And at a certain point, I didn't even know how to get it to stop. And this is one of the reasons why I was hoping that you could come and talk to all of the viewers today, is to start to share honesty about a topic that's really taboo, um, and also a little bit of clarification. A couple of years ago, I don't know if you saw this viral video that went out, and it
Hmm.
was a man that was approached by a solicitor from a different country, and it was one of those lotto schemes. And the guy
Yeah.
said that I befriended him, and I knew it was just because he needed to make more money that he was working with with these people. And I thought it was one of the biggest disservices that we've
Yeah.
done to all of our community to
Yeah.
try to pretend that it's not serious,
Yeah.
because these situations run rapid where it actually runs through an entire family's finances, where then the person doesn't
Right.
have any money to survive. And
Right.
I don't know. I think that whoever produced that video should really do a public apology, because there's 2.5 million people just in 2014 that were taken advantage of. They had fraud conducted to them. And we can do a kumbaya, the world is great, and all that good stuff. But as citizens, family, and friends, we need to be cautious about the wolf that's coming in sheep clothes and trying to act like we're just here
Right.
to sing kumbaya. They're not. And they're very organized. And I was hoping that maybe you could tell some of the viewers about that, so that they're aware this isn't just like a random person that just, tries once to scam you.
Right. So, yeah, let's get into the last type of elder abuse, and that's called financial abuse. What I did is I saved that one for last, because we're going to talk about that one the most here. Okay.
Okay.
Um, And just kind of a side note too, me as an elder law attorney, I do practice a lot of different types of law. Elder law, Medicaid planning, long-term care planning, estate planning, that sort of thing. But in addition to my private practice, I sit on a board. One in particular is called Elder Abuse Alliance. I'm actually the president of the organization. And what it is a nonprofit organization. It's a community-based organization that we help the general public, educate the general public of elder abuse awareness. Okay, so it's a great organization to be in. I've been in it for quite some time now. We frequently work with the Genesee County Sheriff's Office too. So in our county, we have a dedicated team, a victim crime unit that we got a grant from the state of Michigan so that we can have a dedicated team just for elder abuse in Genesee County, which is
That's
amazing, right?
incredible. That is
And I think that
incredible. Yeah.
under the leadership of, I think this program started under the leadership of Sheriff Piquel, and now it's under the leadership of Sheriff Swanson, of course, and they're
In
just doing
fact, we're going to
phenomenal
have
things.
him come out next week to talk about some different problems, even in our community,
Right.
that we're facing with scams on seniors. It's pretty
Oh,
serious.
amazing.
Yeah. But
He's
what was the name of the organization again, Amir? Because I wasn't even aware of that, especially when I was going through my chaos. What was the name? What is the name of it?
it's called Elder Abuse Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was formerly known as the Elder Abuse Task Force, and then
Mm-hmm.
disbanded, and it came back as a new name, as a new entity. But
That's
it's
awesome.
it's just a great. I mean, we have all parts of elder care and people working with the elderly
Yeah.
there. We have anywhere from lawyers. We have a number of lawyers there. We have places like the Genesee County Sheriff's Office. They're very involved with our organization. Our senior services in Genesee County, whether it's the veterans, whether it's the Office of Senior Services, whether we have assisted living homes there, we have hospitals, we have some financial institutions that are part of the organization.
That's
We have a
fantastic.
great we
Mm-hmm.
have a great group of
Mm-hmm.
people who we just come together one day of the month, one morning of the month for about an hour, and we talk about what's going on with our elderly. Have we
Mm-hmm.
seen any scams?
Mm-hmm.
Have we prevented any scams? Have
Mm-hmm.
we educated anybody to help them in their life and their patient's life or their loved one's life? So it's a great organization that is just going to keep getting stronger and stronger as time goes on, in my opinion. So going back to financial abuse, okay, I think you really hit on that statistic pretty well when people, 2.6 million people in 2014
It's a
were
lot.
victims of identity theft. I can't talk today,
Mhm.
apparently.
I do that all
Um,
the time.
and then 13% of Americans every year, at least that we know of, okay, are victims of financial fraud.
And you hit
Okay,
it right on the head that we
right.
know of. So imagine how
Hmm.
many cases go unreported. A lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't want to even make a guess
Mm-mm.
of how many go unreported,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's pretty substantial, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but we have a lot of elderly people right now and disabled people right now. And that number is just going to keep getting larger and larger as time goes on. So naturally, that number is probably going to go up unless we do something about it now and educate and things like that. Now, another part of why we probably don't know about this financial fraud is people are embarrassed sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just don't know, but what we can do is try to be an active part of their life. Hey, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, cousin who might be vulnerable. How are things going? Let me ask you some questions. Are you getting phone calls? Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so so we're going to talk about what is financial abuse, right? That's really the question here is, um, how does it occur and what is it? Obviously, financial abuse is taking advantage of somebody vulnerable regarding their assets. Okay, so meaning if they have assets and they're vulnerable and tricking them essentially into giving them um, your assets indirectly. Okay, and that can be done through the mail. It can be done on the computer. It can be done on the phone. It can even be done on the TV. or how many people try to think about how many different avenues these abusers have to take advantage. If it's through the mail, it could be something like, hey, I got a letter that says I just won the lottery, or I won a big prize, or whatever it is. But in order um, to get my winnings, I have to pay the taxes on it first. So send me a check of $5,000 to pay for the taxes, and then I'll send you $1,000,000. Right? No one's going to do that. Right? That's obviously a scam. Don't fall for it, and tell your families. Have a talk with your families and tell them not to fall for it. Okay.
Unfortunately, I will tell you that was one of the scams that my husband got tied into, and then it became an avalanche of phone calls, phone calls, phone calls of so many people. And often, what they would do is Western Union have him Western Union the money to them,
Mhm.
but they're organized. This isn't just like one person who's picking up a phone.
Right.
They have a whole infrastructure of how they're doing it, and they're queuing people up for their next victim. So it's unfortunate, but it happens, and I witnessed it in my own personal life. And I do like how you touched on something, which is pride, and sometimes even witnessing, you have that prideful moment that you're too embarrassed to say anything, and like in my case, I didn't know what was going on or to the extent that he was doing it, until eventually when he needed full-time care. But it's tragic is what it is.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So, I mean, and that's just one of the avenues. I mean, along with that too is, there's fake charities that they make. Hey, would you mind donating to this charity if you know that had a child who had some health complications? Do you want to send it St. Jude's? And it could be the fake St. Jude's. So you got to make sure that you're
That's
very
right.
careful of who may be the receiving end of your
And
donation.
sometimes they'll even use a website that's so close to the original one,
Yes.
but there's a
Yes.
variation. So going and looking and making sure is it .com and not .net. Those are some simple things.
You're right. You're absolutely
One
right.
thing too, when you're talking about the mail, this is something for families and friends to take note of. If you happen to notice that all of a sudden they're getting triple the amount of mail that they used to, you might want to ask, like, "Hey, what's going on there?" And it's not about being nosy or prodding, but having a general idea of what's going on. Like when things seem abnormal, listen to your gut. Listen to your gut and reach out, and don't sit there and think everything's going to be okay if I just go with the flow. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
like a crisis calling your attention when you see a pile of mail like that. Your loved one may be targeted.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. Um, on the computer, computers are very dangerous products that are, um, uh, you know, avenues in which abusers can take advantage of the elderly or the disabled. Now, when I say computers, I mean, um, you know, when we're talking about like phishing scams, meaning getting people to open up a mail, a piece of like an email, or log into a specific site, or whatever it may be. These sites, these emails, some of them have viruses in them. Okay,
Hmm.
and with that being said, with the technology nowadays, you can through a virus, you can get all the personal information. If you ever bought anything on Amazon, you bought anything on a website or whatever it may be, and you have your credit card saved on that computer,
Yeah.
if you open up the wrong email, there goes your credit card information. There goes your social security information. There goes whatever it may be.
Hmm.
So, there has to be some sort of, maybe it's virus protection or whatever it may be on your computer that can other online scams could be like social media scams, right? I know that as some adults get older, they tend to get lonely in their life, so they're sometimes looking for love, and in that case, there's abusers ready to prey, right? You might have a nice looking man or male or female in a profile picture that you might say, hey, I want to get to know them or whatever it may be, and then you say, hey, I really like you, but my car just broke down and I really need some money to drive to the grocery store, and would you mind sending me a few $1,000s so I can fix my car, and you connect with that person, and then the person on the other side is really just a professional scammer, and so you're just falling for their trap. Another one too is phone scams. Of course, I think everybody knows about these by now. If you don't, then then listen up. Really, it's
Well,
these
they've
phone
actually
scams.
even gotten clever with the phone scams. Like you and I were
Mhm.
talking briefly, we both knew somebody who was approached with the drunk driving grandchild scheme. Tell the viewers about that a little bit.
So I don't want to completely botch the story, but from what I understand, our own probate court judge, Judge Barkey,
Oh, I didn't
in
know. Okay, it was a judge. Okay.
yeah, from what I understand, tried happening to one of her relatives, and it was, hey, they got a phone call saying, hey, your son's in jail or in some trouble, and you have to send some money to help your grandson,
Hmm.
and basically, the grandson was not in trouble. The grandson was completely out of trouble. So, the person that was on the phone sounded like the grandson,
Hmm.
sounded like, saying things that they would say
Right.
normally, but they checked it out and said, hey, it's not that person.
Hmm.
Um, and so, that's another downside of social media is, you can figure out who's related to who nowadays,
Hmm.
and you can find out based on video posts, how they talk, how they sound, things like that, and you
Hmm.
can really scam people. I mean,
Hmm.
these people are really good at their job, really.
Hmm.
Um, and so the
The
grandparent
same
scam,
thing happened to my mom's friend. Same exact
yeah.
thing. They said that the grandson was arrested for drunk driving and that, he needed the money immediately to get bailed out. And it turned out it was a scam. So it's amazing that they can go through those steps to figure out who's the grandchild, who's the grandparent. So there's some intelligence, evil, corrupt intelligence, but there's some intelligence behind that. So people should be aware when you're posting things online and you're talking about things, be mindful because you don't know who's listening. Are those things that you would shout out in a public square? While your Facebook is kind of like a public square, so be mindful of that. In your opinion, Amir, what would be some of the immediate things people should do if they suspect that their loved one is being targeted in this way?
Um, so, I mean, it depends on the extent of the target, really. Now, if the abuser or the scammer has already infiltrated the vulnerable adult's life, maybe got a social security number or a bank account number or a bank account card or whatever it may be, you just act appropriately, right? So,
Hmm.
when it comes to, hey, there's money being taken out of this account for the this prize money, monthly ACH, whatever it may be, you can go to the bank and close the bank account and open up a new one, right?
Hmm.
That's as
Hmm.
simple as that, or get a new debit card
Hmm.
with new numbers. Um, or if it's something where they have the social security number of the person now and they're trying to open up credit cards or take out loans or whatever it may be, you can actually call the tax, not the tax, but the credit bureaus, and put a freeze on their credit score, I mean, their social security number, I'm sorry.
That's actually a
And
really good idea so that
yeah,
they don't start taking out loans or more credit cards out on that social security number. That's a great idea.
absolutely, absolutely. You can
I
change the
actually had
pin.
our phone numbers changed too.
Yeah.
A cell
Yeah.
phone I had to have disconnected, and then I had to have our house phone number changed. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all great ideas. Just basically maybe even putting a spamming service on your cell phone where there's a list of known numbers that are known to be spam calls or whatever it calls. So
that's a good
to
idea.
to reduce the amount of calls that you're getting. Um, and then also just if they have been compromised too, just talk to them about how they got compromised, right? What avenues are you doing to fall a victim to these scams, right? Are you picking up every single phone call if you don't know who it is? Are you opening up every single email that comes to your mailbox?
Hmm.
Um, are you um, are you opening up every single letter, right, and sending a check with whatever your snail mail? Um, in addition to it's one more recent one that happened, and more before COVID, was in-person scamming, right? So there was a couple of people, I believe, in our county who were going door to door, saying, "Hey, you need a new roof," or "Hey, you need a new siding on your house," or you need a new porch, or whatever it may be. We'll do it for you, and we'll give you a really good price, but you got to pay it up front if you want it. And so what these places would do is, or these builders would do, they would say, hey, give me $3,000 up front. I'll redo your whole roof. Okay. So the vulnerable adult would say, hey, here's $3,000. You're going to redo our whole roof, nice warranty, whatever it may be. And guess what happens? Or guess what doesn't happen? The
No roof.
roof never, right? So I know that the sheriff's office was taking an initiative on that one and saying, hey, look, if you are agreeing to somebody doing your remodeling or a new roof or new siding or whatever it is, call us up. There's a number for the Genesee County Sheriff's Office, and we'll check in to make sure that person's it's a real company or whatever it may be. So you can kind of
We really
reduce
do
that.
have a good sheriff in this county. We're really
We do.
fortunate. He's very
Yeah.
proactive. That whole team is. But with that being said, I think that people need to keep account that sometimes these scammers, they may come in your email, they may come social media, on the phone, they could come knocking on the door. And then the really sad part, which is horrific, is sometimes it can happen with family members and friends that may lead that person to be victimized. Now, how are there tell signs for what people should look for in that?
Persistency, right? If someone's too persistent, right, it's usually not a good sign. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Generally speaking, if someone's persistent, I would red flag it and say, why are you so quick to close this deal right now? I want time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if they're really legit, they'll give you time to think about it. They'll give you a callback number that actually works, right? So you find out in a lot of these phone scams, right? They'll call from a number that doesn't work, and then they try to get you to, give them something, and then the best thing you do is say, hey, I'll call you back. What's your phone number, right? And then or I'll call back the number that they called from, and it doesn't work. That's right. So these are my recommendations. But let's go on and talking about who are these people, who are the people that are doing this crazy stuff to our vulnerable adults and our disabled adults. 90% of the people are family members.
That's sad. That is
90% of the people who are
horrible.
abusing elderly and disabled people are family members. That's the sad truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sad truth. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, you don't just got to worry about these people calling you from the third world countries or whatever it may be trying to scam you. But now you got to worry about people, domestic and international, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a sad thing, and this is why everybody needs to be aware of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if daughter or son is taking care of their parent, right, that daughter or son could be taken advantage.
That's right.
um, and you always want to ask
Mm-hmm.
questions. And when in doubt, report it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Worst thing that's going to
Absolutely.
happen is if you report it, they investigate, it's nothing, move on with your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone moves on with
Mm-hmm.
their life, okay? And at the end of this session, what I'll do is I don't know if there's a way to broadcast the Adult Protective Service number, but I have the number that I can give to everybody as
Yeah,
well.
if you want to say that, that would be great, and then I can come back and add it into the comments too, so people have access
Perfect.
to that. Because I wish that I would have had access to that during my journey, but that's one
Right.
of the things that I'm committed to through being able to have survived through that is to come back and share information from the past and new things that I learned that can help people along the way. Because it is very exhausting, I think, when you see a loved one who maybe was thriving and vivacious throughout their whole life, but as they become a little bit more frail or need a little bit more help, that there
Yeah.
are unfortunately predators. And I will tell you from what I witnessed, I'm even traumatized by it. Uh, it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. But this is the thing: when we choose to say we're not going to sit into the taboo and not feel comfortable talking about it, or to just sit with our head in the sand and to act like these horrible things don't exist, that's not going to solve it either. What we have to do is be willing to take it head on and say, we're not going to allow this to happen to our vulnerable. We're going to look out for them. We're going to put things in place like that organization that you're involved in, what the sheriff is doing, what different local people are doing to be very proactive and looking out for those that may not even know that they're in that vulnerable state. That's the sad part, is a lot of times they
Yeah.
don't even know,
Right.
that
Right.
maybe they're
It's all about
declining.
communication. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
getting the word out there, educating the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Educating assisted living homes,
Mm-hmm.
educating nursing homes, educating in-home caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
educating families that are taking care of their own loved ones,
Absolutely.
educating banks,
Mm-hmm.
educating financial institutions and
Mm-hmm.
hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, there was a really great story that a UPS driver was dropping off a package and it suspected abuse. Okay,
Really?
he knew what to look for, so he called Adult Protective Services immediately,
Yeah.
and uh, there was elder abuse. There
That's
was actual
incredible.
abuse.
Yeah.
So,
But it was that one
jumping
person
into
saying, I'm not willing to just drive off and go about my
yes,
day. I have to make a
yes,
call. Yeah. That's
yeah,
powerful. No, I didn't hear that story, Amir, but that those are the real heroes that walk amongst us. And
right,
sometimes we just don't hear these stories. So,
right.
one thing that,
And
go ahead.
I was going to say another. Unfortunately, I mean, it's really. I'm really ashamed to say it, but another type of abusers. There's a certain group, lawyers, right?
Hmm.
They take advantage all the time. They
Hmm.
really, really do.
Hmm.
And whether someone needs a financial plan or a state plan
Hmm.
or whatever it may be, okay,
Hmm.
or if the lawyer's a guardian themselves,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
seen that happen before, right? And really, just because you're a lawyer or a doctor or a financial advisor or clergy or a caregiver doesn't mean that that's never going to happen. I mean, it's happened on all spectrums, all
That's
in all
something that
professions.
we've learned and we've seen across the whole globe. Just because some people are in a certain position of authority does
Yes,
not mean that they're necessarily good. Doesn't mean that they're bad, but I think
right,
that you're right. And I've seen that even with a lot of the elderly, where it's, if the doctor says this, it's gold. If the attorney says this, it's gold.
right,
And it's good if you can have those kind of relationships, but there needs to be a level of credibility. And what do they say? Just keep an honest man honest. So part of it is don't submit total, trust, like 100% trust everything. You've got to be aware, and that includes the person that you're talking about. I think being open and talking to them about places they may be vulnerable that they haven't been in the past, and especially with men. I do want to say this to aging population of men. A lot of times, this masculinity of maybe you were the head of the household and now your health is declining. And this could be somebody that's in their 40s and now their health
Right.
is declining. There may come a time that you need to lean into your spouse, and that's okay. It's better to lean into something that's good and looking out for you versus just eating, struggle because of pride, because you're the male household. It's
Right.
okay. We all have a certain amount of days that we get to live in this life, and it doesn't mean that as we get older that you still have to control everything. It's okay.
Well, I will tell you too is even the lack of knowledge thereof, in my opinion, is abuse too, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you have options, right? I very recently known a story about a husband and wife who husband needed an assisted living home and wife lived at home, and um, husband and wife spent their whole life savings at this assisted living home.
Yeah.
Nobody told them that there was another option. Nobody told them that elder law attorneys exist, right?
Right.
Um, and
And I think a
this,
lot of times people don't know that till they get there, or the wife will think, that's all right, I can take care of him at home, I can do everything. And you
mhm,
can to a point, and then when that
right,
point breaks, it's like a balloon full of water, and you've got
yeah,
to have a plan in place. And that's disheartening because all of it is actually those people are coming from a place of love. They just want to help their spouse, but there comes a point where you may need more than just what you can do, and
mhm,
having access to an attorney and other people can help. Kind of like on a side note, really quick, we were in one of those situations where, for instance, with me, with my husband, he ended up needing assisted living, and
mhm,
then eventually needed full time 24-hour nursing care. But I didn't know a lot of the things at the beginning of my journey. I actually ran into a lady named Beth Ackley. Do you know Beth?
ah, she's great.
She was awesome. She actually was like my sanity because I had gone through all of the stages to try to get through help, and it wasn't connecting. And I think on average assisted living you're looking at what, $3,000 a month,
At least
and then
on the low end.
nursing homes you're looking at about 10,000 a month. You might luck out and get maybe 8,500, uh, maybe, but check the neighborhood.
Right.
But no, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I think a lot of people don't, because then you start getting into that spend down, and before you know it, you've spent $100,000 in 1 year
Yeah.
just on medical care facility. So, how
Right.
would somebody be able to connect with? Like, is that something that you do? That you help people with the estate planning as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So a big part of my business is and my law firm is helping people who don't want to go um, obsolete financially
Mm-hmm.
if they need long-term care,
Mm-hmm.
especially the married ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's, Medicaid is really the goal here.
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid will help assist with payment of long-term care facilities, Medicaid-approved long-term care facilities like nursing
Mm-hmm.
homes, and
Mm-hmm.
some assisted living homes as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or even to stay at their own home to pay for in-home caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, this is a big part of my firm because I believe in helping people, making their situation better,
Mm-hmm.
especially the spouses. You shouldn't have to spend all your money at a nursing home or an assisted living home and go broke in the meantime. I mean, the healthy spouse still needs to pay the bills, still needs to pay the mortgage sometimes, still needs to pay the water bill and the taxes and insurance and buy food and
Yeah. Yeah.
car gas, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I believe in, and this is what I devote my practice to and devote my career to. And again, there's is by a lack of knowledge of this, in my opinion, I mean, if you know about it and you're not saying anything, whether you're in a assisted living home or a nursing home or whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
I don't want to call it, direct abuse, but
It is.
it,
It's beyond abuse to me. It actually can get to the point that you destroy lives, literally destroy lives. And it's it sounds like, oh, this can't really happen, but it does. And in fact, for my situation, I hate to keep going back to it, but it's what I know. I was to the point I almost had to divorce my husband because we weren't getting help. We weren't getting support. And when you're raising two kids and trying to run businesses and just survive, and
mhm,
before you even get to your bills
mhm,
for self care, like not even go on a vacation, just pay your
mhm,
mortgage payment. When you're paying out a $10,000 a month nursing home bill, that can annihilate most families very, very quickly.
yes,
So, one of the key things I think that is detrimental to prevent abuse starts with meeting with an attorney in advance. Now, this is one of the things people don't want to talk about death, and they don't want to talk about, the taboo of, getting old. We think that, when we're in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, that we're going to live forever. But
right,
if there's a way to work in advance to have your loved one get connected with an attorney and get things set up like the estate planning and knowing where everything's at before you're sick, not waiting until the ninth hour and then putting that
right.
pressure on your loved one while they're already dealing with, they're sick. So I think it's key. And one thing is your website is theplanningattorneys.com,
Correct,
and
correct.
that's how people.
We have four different attorneys here, in myself included. Three of which practice a lot of estate planning.
Hmm.
One does more of the landlord-tenant criminal defense issue, but basically, having a plan put in place, um, that in case somebody needs to make decisions for you, there's somebody there to make decisions.
That's
And I
right.
always tell this to all my clients is I say, the one most important document you can make is called a power of attorney,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You want somebody that's able to make decisions for you that you can trust,
Hmm.
and to make sure that they advocate for you in case you can't advocate for yourself,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
that's very important. And so, the joke is, I always give my clients a hypo is I say, hey, if you give this person $100,000 in cash, can you expect them to give it back to you in a month, right?
Hmm.
You got to
Hmm.
trust them,
Hmm.
right? If you don't
Hmm.
trust them, they can be the abuser. They can
That's
turn
right.
because they got the authority to abuse you now. They
That's
can go
right.
to the bank. They can sell your house. They can make gifts. Do you see what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's very important that we have this nice long conversation with my clients and prospective clients or people who are thinking about getting powers of attorney, because it's just giving fuel, to the fire if you're giving somebody authorization to touch your assets. And so we have three great attorneys here that myself, well, the other two I think are better than I am because they've been doing it for much longer than I am. But
Yeah, yeah,
but this
but they're
would
much
be
older than me.
Alexandra Nassar.
You still have a head full of hair, huh? All the
Well,
guys can't stand
William
you.
Shaheen or Bill Shaheen and Alexandra Nassar, they're two great attorneys, and uh, and they really inspire me and make me the best attorney as I can be.
I love
So
that. And it's kind of cool too, I believe, when you have different generations of attorneys that are working together. And the reason why is there's different insights that you're going to get from all of those different timelines of things that can help keep your family safe. And even like you're still, I mean, you're still young and vivacious, Amir. Like, is he old enough to be an
thank you.
attorney? Yes, he is. And you're still smiling about it, but you see things in a different perspective and have different knowledge that maybe some of the other attorneys don't. So I love that, and I think that that's one of the things that makes a great team is when you have these different perspectives so that you can fully serve a client. Super important.
Absolutely. And you know what? I will tell you, uh, elder law is a very specialized type of practice, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not, just because you do estate planning doesn't mean you understand elder law, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the
Mm-hmm.
statutes, or what's abuse and what's not abuse and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a practice in it within itself, just like a criminal defense or a civil litigation attorney or whatever it may be. So this is an area of practice that us elder law attorneys have, that a lot of even other estate planning attorneys, a lot of questions regarding Medicaid planning or enhanced estate planning to prepare for
Yeah.
that time in their life, because really, people are preparing for it now.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time to
There's
prepare.
so many
So,
different facets of it that you don't really realize it till you're in the middle of it. Now, one thing that I think is actually kind of bonus extra cool with you,
mhm.
Amir, is you also used to be involved with was it a caregiving facility?
Yeah, so my mother owns two assisted living home facilities, and what those the types of facilities are, just basically it's 24-hour care. The loved ones live at their facility and at her facility, and she just they have their own room and bathroom, and
Yeah.
and they feed them, and they just take good care of them
Create
like
a
they're a
home
one big
environment. Yeah.
family.
So
Right. So
I
before I
love
was an
that.
attorney, what I did for a living, this is what I did for a living, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what really um, prepared me to be an elder law attorney is the interaction I had with people who suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's, and who
Yeah.
are physically handicapped, and working with their families in the caregiving spectrum at a later time, that I had a inspiration to become an attorney, an elder law attorney. So that's
That
what I
is
did.
so
And
cool. That is so
yeah,
cool. And I think that having that full spectrum of not just from like the business end of it or the legal end of it, you kind of get into the humanity of it. And
right.
that's the key part when it comes to like these topics that we're talking about, elder law and elder abuse prevention. These are
Mhm.
human beings.
Yeah.
These are our elders.
Mhm.
And I'm inspired by the fact that you ended up going into law and looking out for that part of our community. I have so much respect and admiration for you, and
Thank
I
you.
just hope that you continue to share this wisdom with other people so that we can try to prevent and protect.
Well, I have a lot of support, really.
Mm-hmm.
My family's been supporting me this for
Right.
whatever I need to do. And I would tell you, one of the big inspirations in my life right now, with especially the elderly, is our sheriff. Really, what he does for our elderly in Genesee County is unparalleled. Really, the task force between Sergeant Macy and the rest of um, the sheriffs over there that work with the elder uh,
Mm-hmm.
often. It's just we got something good here in Genesee County, and
We
I think
really
we're
do.
the foundation in our whole state. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
for elder abuse prevention and education, I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, as time goes on. But I
Mm-hmm.
think our main goal here is to I don't think it's ever going to be eliminated entirely, but
Mm-hmm.
to be
But you give
have
me
an
hope that
awareness.
there's people on the horizon that are looking at it because I know through my journey, I felt like so much of it I did on my own. And then fortunately, when I was able to connect with the right legal representation and things like that, they made things go smoother. But regardless, it was being terrorized. And I didn't understand the depth of it until a few years after I made it out of it. So, by
Mhm.
us talking about it and being proactive, that's how we can start to make a change. But it's with people like you that say, hey, I'm willing to dedicate my life to this. And for that, I just can't tell you thank you enough, Amir. So, I'm cheering you on. And
Thank you.
I just
Thank
hope
you.
that more people start to feel comfortable talking about some of these taboos like death and dying and, our loved ones along the way because there's nothing to be afraid of. It's a part of life. What you should be afraid of is when you're not having these conversations because that's when wickedness and evil can seep in through light. we can actually destroy that. And you got to get in there and be willing to shine the light on it. So, one thing I do want to say to everybody, if you haven't signed up for the upcoming issue of Kudos magazine. In fact, you can see Sheriff Swanson on one of our old copies of Kudos. We think he's quite the guy. But if you want to get your free copy of Kudos magazine, you can go over to kudosflint.com. And our next one is focused on caregiving for the caregiver. So this is going to be great. We're going to have a lot of great content in there. And also, in case you don't know, we have a private Facebook group that's called Caregiving for the Caregiver. So make sure that you're in that group. Throughout the month of May and June, we're going to be doing continual videos that are focused on helping caregivers and their families get through, a challenging time. But you can just go over into Facebook. Our Kudos magazine page has a private group called Caregiving for the Caregiver, and we would love for you to come in and get that knowledge. So, Amir, real quick again, best way for the people to get in touch with you is through this website.
Yeah, the planningattorneys.com. Or you can call me in my office. The office phone number is on there, 810-238-1700. I think what makes me also stand out is I provide free consultations. So I don't charge to talk with somebody. If there's something I can do, I can help, and then we can talk about charges then. But just what the deal is.
Go set up a consultation. Yeah, definitely set up a consultation. If you can get in there and get some, at least conversation points going so that you can take it back with your loved ones, get that dialogue going and make change happen. Do it before anybody's sick. Do it before anybody's sick, because that's when everybody's stress goes off the roof into places you never thought possible. But so free consultation. Do you do it virtually or does it have to be in person?
It can be either. It can be
Okay.
either. I do have people coming into the office nowadays, since it sounds like COVID is getting a little bit better. But
Yeah, let's get it
phone
out of here.
consultation is
Let's get
fine.
back to normal. I'm ready.
Yeah, right, right. I can't wait. Phone consultation is fine. Virtual consultation is also okay with me. We have access to Zoom and
That's
all the other
great.
mechanisms. So
That's great.
again, it doesn't hurt to talk, right? I mean, it's
That's right.
just something that you don't know if you have a problem until someone tells you have a problem, really.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what elder abuse is.
That's
Sometimes
right.
you just don't know you have a problem until someone tells you have a problem.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
but
Well, it's good
I
to
do
know people
appreciate.
like you are out there looking out for our best interest. And Amir, I just can't tell you thank you enough for coming and spending part of your afternoon.
Thank
I
you.
hope that
Thank you.
you just keep doing what you're doing, keep going down that train. And for all the caregivers that are out there or people that maybe are just struggling a little bit, I just want to let you know it is a long journey. It can be very exhausting. I want to encourage you to keep taking baby steps each day. Try to find something joyful. And one of the things that you can do that can help bring a little bit of relief is start doing your planning and do it now. But if you haven't signed up, go to kudosflint.com. We're going to be talking about that and so much more that's focused on keeping you and your family healthy and safe. So thanks again, Amir. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
And I hope
I
all of you
appreciate you
guys.
inviting me here, and you've been a great friend for a long time now, and I hope our personal and our business relationship continues to grow, and you're doing a great job with
Definitely.
Kudos magazine, by the way. It's
Def-
a great magazine, and I'm looking
oh,
forward to reading the next version.
thank you, Amir. I appreciate that. Yeah, the whole purpose of why I even really started Kudos was try to help people on some of these journeys, and
Yeah.
we keep learning, and when we learn and we share it with other people, that's how we can make our community a little bit safer and better. So, all right, you guys. In the meantime, make it an absolutely fabulous day. And we will see you again next week. We have a whole lineup of some different people coming in to talk about elderly abuse again with sheriff. Well, actually, that's scams. scams that
Yep.
people are trying to target seniors with. We're going to be talking about some home care remedies that you can do. We even have, I think it's Aaron Caudell from the local grocer that's going to be talking about plants that you can start growing at home so that you can feel like a little bit of a mental break. And all of us together can make a difference in our lives, our families, and our communities. So, you guys have an absolutely fabulous day. And thank you again for tuning in. We'll see ya.
Thank
Bye.